back.
Probably just ahead of middle of the thing. I've got a line on my board and I don't adjust it either. Just find you being a bit heavier, even a centimetre, I'll best. Even a centimetre, the nose starts to go down.
Yeah.
And especially in this sort of chop.
I'm 2 centimetres backwards of centre, and I'm the same as these guys. I've got my magic spot. It's marked. I never move it. It just does your head in.
The only
That's
thing,
the centre pin.
the only time I might change it is doing slalom. You move it forward because your rig and your centreboard being further apart, you can manoeuvre better. If they're closer together, it's harder to turn the board.
So,
Next question.
is that, would you say, is there a trend with, as you get heavy weights, you should be moving it back?
Yeah. You've just got to feel the board and just keep your nose from going into the waves, because also downwind you'll
Go down the mine.
run into some problems.
So, Paul, how far are you from the front?
Just at another half a mil, something. Not hardly anything more than that. But downwind, continually changing your weight up and down the board the whole time, so you don't get in the position of hitting the trough.
Yeah.
Really important.
And sailing by the lead downwind as well.
Yeah.
So that's a
Okay. Sorry. Let it make some room for the public. Sorry, guys.
if you're sailing straight downwind, and I'll see you guys, you sail by the lead, so your boom is out past 90 degrees, and you surf inside the waves. And then when the board sort of, or the wave flattens out, then you can come up. And that way you can keep surfing and.
I think it's really important too to keep your body weight, or certainly for me, as far forward as possible. A lot of people tend to stand too far back on the board and just sinking the tail a bit. Much better to push water than try and drag. I think the other thing with these, you got it to Paul's point. You've got to keep moving your feet when you're downwind. You're backwards and forwards constantly. So if you're in the same spot the whole time, I think you're probably not optimising how you're going.
And don't overthink it. Just get it in a spot where you think it's all right. And then it's a windsurfer. You just got to keep it simple.
Stewie.
Harness line length. When do you adjust, and what are the prompts for you to adjust your harness line length?
How much are you, mate? What do you weigh?
I'm 84.1, I think it was.
Michael Lancey.
Yeah, I'm shorter going upwind and then longer downwind. Like if it gets windy, you usually want them shorter, so you closer to the boom and sort of bring it over on top of you more. But yeah, if you're going off when you have adjustable harness lines, you can ease them off, get the rig up a bit more, and you can get a little deeper. So yeah, definitely adjustable ones are helpful, but yeah, I think the main thing is as you get more wind, you want it sort of to be, bring that sail over to you, so shorten them up. Have you got fixed harness lines?
I've got adjustable ones, but they're not easy. I'll get some one of those ones with the cleats up. So do you have to get on your toes to get in, sort of thing? Is that short? Or is
I think we used to go from like the wrist to the elbow or something like that. Was a rough measurement. I can show you later on, but yeah, I sort of set it so when I pull it completely up, that's where I like it. The strong wind going upwind, that's the shortest I like it, and then I'll ease it off. But if you don't have good adjustable harness lines, you won't adjust them because you don't want them full length at the wrong time.
Michael?
Say again?
The adjustment of your lines, where would your boom be?
I usually go high. Yeah, I usually, if I can get it, like as soon as the wind comes up, like if it's over about 10 knots, I get almost to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, very rarely would I lower it down.
Alright. So you have to run a high boom.
Yeah, pretty high, yeah.
What do you Jinxie? I'm completely opposite.
I'm the opposite.
I'm right at the bottom. Just about.
So what are you talking, shoulder height?
I'm talking over shoulder height with me. On the mast.
I don't know, who's faster, Michael or Ben?
Definitely mine. Anyway, it's just personal preference, but I found that after a lot of time that having that boom low, I never adjust it, always on the third thing that's marked, another permanent mark for me. So it's just different technique though, and this is really what you've got to find is what works for you. We'll give you a bunch of tips here, but you've got to spend the time and find what works.
I've got a theory on boom height that I was talking to a few people have asked, which is why I said we should do this. My son rows, and with rowers, you know how hard rowing is, like proper rowing. If you're rowing with your wrists like that or like that, you lose a lot of strength. So you've got to set up with this ergonomic process, this biomechanical thing, and the strongest way for a human is straight in.
Yep.
So
And that's right.
I put my board, click my rig in, stand on the board, and make it like you put your hand under the boom, and that is going to be the strongest position. And just back on the harness lines, I don't have adjustable ones. And the opposite to you being lighter is that I actually want the rig in heavy winds. I want the rig as upright as possible because you're overpowered. The board's not going to go any faster. So once you get to maximum speed, it's about releasing pressure. So if you're standing up on the rail and you're just doing, Tim Lelliot and I had a chat about this the other day, you're just gassing it off a bit to keep it up on the rail. But if you're lighter, I don't know if you can get up there. It's a different technique. But I don't have adjustable.
You're not telling me
And downwind,
finishes the marathon.
downwind, I put my hand inside the boom, inside the harness line, and just keep it up on my hand so that it never gets caught. I'll push, but also the adjustable harness lines, to me that would be difficult because then your hook height doesn't change. I don't know. So I just, by harness lines, I just go like that and it's in.
I'm adjusting mine all the time.
38 centimetres is my
race,
my
like
length.
in top upwind, downwind.
Absolutely.
You're changing for upwind, downwind every time.
As Mike says, you've got to lengthen up downwind, otherwise the rig gets too close to you. So,
Yeah, well that's what that was why I've heard. Whereas I've always just gone adjust them for the condition, not for the upwind, downwind.
so yeah, in any given race, I'll spend the time before, just get it right for the wind conditions. I'll be definitely moving the harness lines backwards and forwards during the race, potentially, if the breeze comes on. So I'm moving back slowly.
You have them pretty close together too.
I actually don't. No, I'm old school. I can't sail like that, mate. It's spazzy. Mine's old school apart.
I'm the same. I have just have it at what would be a normal, like they
normal
weren't
grip.
there.
Yeah.
So, and you can use your hips then to steer when it's windy. If they're together, you've got to use more power. You use up your energy trying to steer.
I don't know.
All
Just not
depends
good
on the
enough to
weight.
do it. I guess.
Yeah, it depends on the weight, which is exactly why.
What about you, Sarah? What's your go with your harness?
I have them. I've come in. I've started like
Yep.
you because that's how we used to do it.
That's it.
And then I've moved them in. So I have them reasonably close together, probably halfway between really close, like Paul and.
Yeah, balls. Really close.
And are they long?
Yeah, I think they probably are reasonably long. I have adjustable. I don't tend to adjust them so much during a race, but definitely between races. But certainly what you're describing in the heavy weather, I mean, even as a lightweight, I have to do that. It's the only way I can sail upwind. So really getting it to the point where you're feathering pretty much all the time, backing off the breeze. And then, you know, if the wind gets to a point where I can't even do that and I've got to completely change my technique. So I think, you know, the lighter you are, you've got to actually have a lot of different techniques because the conditions change. It challenges you in very different ways, even like, you know, 22 knots compared to 26 knots.
Well, you guys are hitting your top speed and being able to get planing much quicker than us. So your coefficient with the difference between your foiling going through the water and your sail going through the air is like 6 to 1. So you guys can push that foil through the water and get it
Railing, yeah.
Questions?
So, question for you, Matt. Seems like the game's changed. Every time I came out racing against you, you had all the data on how many tacks you made, your wind speed, which angles, where the lifts were. Like, have we turned into technology now to get better, or can we just do it without?
DJ starting at 3 p.m. and there's lots of videos from last night.
No, I'm serious.
And I'll see you on the start line.
Do you think technology is going to help us in our sailing?
What do you reckon with
No?
smartwatches? You reckon
It's
it
a,
helps? No?
it's a gimmick.
Mine's $10, mate.
Hey, I still got the one you gave me 5 years ago.
Okay, I'll ask you a serious question then.
Yeah, I've got a new sailing watch.
Let's talk about
Counts down
race
and then it
start.
starts tracking where you've been.
let's talk about race starts. 70% of the races at the start. So, what do you think is the best technique for a good race start?
Michael.
Race start.
Because this is where you really make the big gains. It's not so much this stuff, because that all gets fixed. This is where you really will improve your racing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got to obviously just know which end's the favoured end, and you've got to be there reasonably early. I like sort of reversing my board up and trying to hold my position, and just, you know, people will mill around you, they'll not be able to do that, so they'll peel off. But if you can sort of just fight for that spot, and you just got to literally just stay there as long as you possibly can. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, I think probably most races have been won at the start for the last 3 days, and so yeah, if you could get clear, you're pretty much laughing. But yeah, being able to hold your position, I like to reverse my board to do that. I think it's pretty important.
How early do you power up before the start go?
I try and know where the start line is first of all, and then also if the guy above me goes, well, I've got to go with him. So yeah, he's going to be over. You try and hide behind him, but yeah, it's a combination of both. You can't let that guy just go. And if you're right on the line, yeah, you have to sort of go with him.
Des, what do you do?
Look, pretty similar. Obviously, you want to have a game plan, I guess, in terms of where you're going up the course. So you've got to do a bit of homework before you actually hit the track. But obviously, you want to find a favoured end. In a big fleet, you also got to minimise the chance of just getting into a position where you get locked in. So yeah, like Mike, try and get to your position early and try and hold that. I think the other key is with these boards in particular, you don't want to be stopped when the gun goes. Okay, so ideally you want to try and build a little hole to leeward so you can at least bear off the fraction and get this thing going. I think with the pumping in this class for that 30 seconds, that is just, so having clear air and a bit of a lane that starts just super important. To Mike's point, if someone goes on top of you, you've got to go, because if you get gassed, you're done. But board speed's really crucial, so you can accelerate quite quickly with your first pumps from a standing start's almost impossible. So, but then it's about, okay, if that works for you, then if you've got a game plan, then if you're in the right spot and you've got a lane, then you start to execute. If not, if you couldn't get off the line, then you're going to have to rethink your game plan, I guess, and figure out a way to get out of it.
I was just going to add to Michael's, when you're actually reversing the board, you've got to keep clear of everyone.
You've got no rights.
You've got no rights at all, so you've got to be very careful when you are reversing, otherwise you can get the moment.
Yeah, if you make contact with someone. I've got a thing where I go near the start boat, same with Michael. I spend a lot of time just hanging around the line and making sure you know where it is. But also, you can hear the committee when they're counting down. You go on 1 second, because no one's that good that they can always get it right on. So it builds you 1 more second.
You're over the line.
They're not videoing, I'll check. But also the other thing is the start is half the race. You really got to get that in your head. That's how important it is, and that's come through from, you know, Paul Elstrom, and I learned that from my old man, and just a good start just makes the whole race. So yeah, what Michael's talking about, go and watch the starts before you, and if you stop and watch all the boards out there and all the good guys like tuning up, you can see what all the angles are. It tells you what's going on with the breeze.
And this afternoon we'll have, what, 110 on the line, so, you know, double the problems you're about to have. So for me today, I'll probably be much more conservative. I'm going to be looking for clear air and not getting caught up in the shit show. Because I know as a heavyweight that most of the lightweight guys and mediums are going to be able to take, and the women are going to be able to take us. So for us larger lads, I'm going to be a lot more conservative and find a way to get out of there if I can.
Yeah, unlimited pumping, isn't it?
It is.
That's going to be a menace.
It is for us larger lads, and we might have to make a pact later about what that actually means.
I'm just going to follow Sarah today. She's going to be very fast.
We'll see.
Short pumping versus larger pumping technique.
As in like leech pumping. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
question is short pumping versus, what is it, long pumping?
Yeah.
So like big full pumps versus leech pumping.
This guy, he's
Yeah,
really
I'll
good
talk
at
to
it.
Paul because he's good at it.
I think first of all you do the big pumps to try and get a little bit more speed, and then once you've got the speed, then you can do your little pumps. I think if you're just standing still and you're getting little pumps,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Get in with it.
And what's the technique for it?
The little pumps, it's not your arm, but you'll see everyone sort of sitting down and squatting, and that transfers into your arms, and then your legs just do that. So it's just a matter of squatting up and down.
On the class website, on the tips and shooting, there's a 30-second shot of Tim Gourlay over in the west. Really well.
But that's okay. It's a lightweight guy. Like the heavyweight guys, you've got to see it. You've got to bear off a bit. So that was the other thing I was going to say is we've got to point a little bit lower than all these guys to get that high performing effect going sooner. This 10 or 15 kilo weight difference.
So there's hardly any arguments in that.
I'm not using your whole body.
For the leaf pumping.
Don't worry about leech pump.
I personally don't leech pump at all. Matty, you watch Matt, you've seen me, we're just doing that.
You've just got to do massive sculls to get going and bear away and just get your board moving. Like that's what I was saying before, it's 6 times the force to push that centerboard through the water than the sail through the air. So you've got to pump 6 times as hard to get the same effect. And then when there's a weight advantage. So you just got to be strong. There's no shortcut, unfortunately. Just from a heavyweight point of view, in the sort of marginal conditions, so you're not up and planing to windward or on the rail or anything, where are your feet? What are you trying to do on the board? Trying to keep the nose out of the water. So Stewie Gilbert, who's an absolute legend of the class, I don't know how many world titles he's won. He points very high. He and I have raced together against each other a lot, and our techniques are quite different. I'm a lot taller than him, and he seems to be able to get his board really screwing to windward. But in those marginal conditions, if I can get to the next gust a bit lower and faster, I can get around him. But then if it's not that, then his technique is probably a little bit more efficient. So feet wise, I don't know. They just go wherever, whatever the board feels like it's moving through the water. Sorry. I don't know. What do you guys do with your feet? It's not where I'm looking.
Every upwind I'm concentrating on 3 things, really. Rig vertical as possible all the time, just not to leeward, not to windward. So I have relatively long harness lines to get that rig vertical. Back foot pressure, and all you big boys have been through this with me already. So hard back foot pressure and twisting forward. My front foot, so my back foot's somewhere around here, and I'm trying to push on the centerboard, but also put the leeward rail in a little bit. My front foot is somewhere around here, but no weight at all, just to stop the forward.
Sorry,
so you're
just
twisting forward.
I didn't remember. So I put my heel on the knob of the centerboard. My heel or my ball of my foot, and just trying to.
Yeah, but you're also trying to get the windward rail up a little bit, like
A little
this.
bit, yeah, just to reduce the wetted surface area, and also to just encourage that centerboard. Because the faster you put the centerboard through the water, the more it wants to hydroplane. It's trying to come out of the water. That's just the coefficient. That's just what it does. So, the ideal is you sail at top speed, right on the edge. That's where you're trying to get to as quick as you can. And the lightweight and really good sailors will be able to get there just a bit quicker than everybody. And that's when they're like, oh fuck yeah, you had a good race.
So that heel,
It
on
was
the,
fresh.
so that heel on the knob of the centreboard would almost put a bit of pressure on the leeward rail.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Try to raise the windward rail a little bit.
Yeah. Michael, that's what you're doing?
Yeah. As soon as you can get your feet out, sort of like take the weight off the sinking board and get you a bit more buoyancy. But yeah, initially you got to start with it sort of towards the midline and then get them out.
Yeah. The thing I have in my mind is you've got to realise it's a planing board. So screwing it up into windward as a heavyweight, it's not going to get you faster down the track. You've got to try and get that board moving. So you've got to come off a bit lower than these guys, and that's why they split the weight divisions, because they just annihilate us if we were together. Who's louder?
Mast track positions.
Mast track?
Sorry, which one? Mast track position for light and strong winds. I've been asked that a few times.
Don't change your mast track. That was the initial question. Never. My board's 1979. I've got a black texture mark. Never changes.
Pete, simply lightweight's further forward.
Yeah.
We've sort of had that discussion as you get heavier coming back, but the consensus certainly is that most people aren't moving their mast betas